Hey guys, how's it going this morning? Um, just have a lot on my mind today, and it's a culmination of things that I've been thinking about for years. So I thought I would just say hello this morning to a random live. As one of my buddies said one time that does a lot of podcasts, he said, you could write this huge article or anything, you can just do a live thing and put it behind you. Get the ideas out there. So that's what I'm wanting to talk about this morning. So what I'd like to discuss today, let's get it off my chest, is just cultural moments, because the globe experienced a cultural moment last week, about a week from today actually, and there's been a lot of reactions come in from that. But this is just kind of a symptom of a larger, if you will, like a branch of a larger tree. To be honest, so what do I mean by a cultural moment? So let's go there just for a moment. So a cultural moment is something that happens within a culture that completely changes it, that completely uproots it. That's at least my name for it. It's the cultural moment. And I can remember it was a few years ago when I was in Kenya in 2019. There was, for instance, no talk whatsoever about homosexuality in the culture and things like that. And then on the very day that Jill Biden landed in Nairobi, the capital of Kenya, the parliament in Kenya passed monumental legislation that allowed for homosexual rights and things like that. And so that started a cultural shift, and if you will, a sexual revolution within that culture that changed the way the culture thinks and operates. Now, in contrast to that, the Black Lives Matter movement came to Kenya about a year or so before that. And when BLM hit Kenya, it only took them a couple of months to realize that, this is futile. Every life matters, and so we're just going to move on. And that was the Kenyan reaction. So somebody told me there that in Kenya, it was only about, the Black Lives Matter movement only lasted about 2 months or something. It was like a flash in the pan. And so differentiating those two, it's like one had a massive impact on the culture while the other didn't. And we see these things happen throughout history. I mean, obviously a big cultural moment for the United States would have been like the Revolutionary War. I mean, it changed us from, we switched from British colonies to our own nation. It spurred a whole new body of ideas and literature and Federalist Papers and all these things. And ideas really came into practice in a culture that, everything from social contract theory to people being made in God's image, and all of these things just became part of the culture of America. It was already part of the culture of America, but it's almost like it became like part of the doctrine of the United States, if you will. And then, of course, like the greatest cultural moment of all time was the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ when he came into the world. It changed history in a lot of ways. It started a chain reaction. Even if Jesus was not God in the flesh, it still started a chain reaction. Christians have been building schools, doing humanitarian work of all kinds, hospitals, all of it, ever since. And it started a cultural moment where things shifted. And so now we're looking, and by no means making a comparison to those things with like the presidential election of the United States. It seems like there's this cultural moment happening that's like getting a lot of global response. It's really crazy to me. And so how do we navigate that, and how do we think about that? So first of all, we have to be very discerning during this time, because it would be really easy to hop on bandwagons and things like that and just kind of let our guard down. Another cultural moment for my generation would have been 9/11. And when 9/11 happened, a lot of people flocked into the churches, and the churches didn't make disciples, and then a lot of people left shortly thereafter. At least that's what I've heard. I wasn't in church at that time. Then you have, for instance, you had back in the day if you look at how these generations are shaped now, like let's look at just the cultural moments as it pertains to the United States. If you think of the greatest generation, what was their cultural moment? Their cultural moment where everything shifted would have been World War II. Everything shifted direction there. When you think about the baby boomer generation, it would have been the Vietnam War, the late 60s, sexual revolution, the hippie movement, and all of that, and everything just kind of shifted for them at that moment. When you think about Generation X, their cultural moment would have been the falling of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of communism and the Cold War, and and everything else that was packed into the 1980s, from the collapse of Wall Street and all that. But there, in the midst of all that civil unrest, there was a shining moment of collapse of communism and Soviet Union laying down their arms and saying, basically, we give up, and the Berlin Wall falling and all of that. For, as I already mentioned, for millennials, you would have had the 9/11. We're called the 9/11 generation. We had the terrorists attacking the World Trade Center, changed the way America operated. For Gen Z, you had of course, the global pandemic, COVID, and all that. And you can argue about how valid all of that was, but reality of it is, psychologically, it still affected Generation Z. A lot of people were robbed of their high school experience. Colleges were disrupted, and all kinds of other crazy things. And so, how do you navigate through all that? I mean, how do you look through this? So, we have to keep our guard up. We have to stay discerning, and we have to understand what's going on. And we have to understand that what happened last Tuesday is more than just, as Trump takes office, this is something that the global church, a lot of people across the world, were praying for and looking to, and saying, "Wow, like this is, this is something else. This is like what just happened here." And so, I just wanted to, share a couple of perspectives. I heard from my buddy in Romania, who said the Church of Romania was praying for this because here's a group that was under the Iron Curtain. They saw the left for what it was, and they prayed and prayed and prayed that this would not carry on. And he was rejoicing when he sent me a WhatsApp message, about a few days ago. He was like, finally we in Romania look forward to real American politics. He said, like it's finally happening again, that this is that America should be what it's supposed to be, which is a very interesting perspective from an outsider, because you hear a lot of the opposite from other people, from other parties. But let me share just a couple of things here. I just threw a couple of these on a PowerPoint, and this is new technology, so bear with me. But I think this will work. Let's try this. Yeah, here's a perspective from, there we go. A friend of mine from the Philippines. He said, "This is a win for the Philippines. Trump just made the best possible pick for the Philippines. Marco Rubio, the hardline anti-China senator from Florida, will become the next U.S. Secretary of State. Trump's appointment of Rubio, along with Representative Michael Waltz for the National Security Advisor, is indicative of his commitment to the Indo-Pacific and the containment of China. It hopefully will lead to a far more stringent U.S. stance against China and U.S. willingness to economic, political, and military measures to achieve its objectives. Rubio is observed as friendly to Philippine interests and has in fact just introduced a bill to strengthen the Philippine-U.S. alliance and deter China's gray zone tactics in the West Philippine Sea. Both Rubio and Waltz will likely insist in increased U.S. assistance for the Philippines. All the foregoing signifies a pragmatic and sober Trump foreign policy that veers sharply away from the weak policy of the Democrats, as well as the deranged foreign policy of the previous, I think I'm saying this right, Duterte administration. So, smart people, it seems, all over the world are saying things like this. And a lot of people don't realize this, because I think one of the pitfalls of the conservative party, and I'm conservative, So I think one of the things that we really got to shape up, guys, in the Republican Party is we've preached this America First doctrine when nobody else in the world sees the Republican Party as merely an America First group, because they see the Republican Party as a more hopeful side of the aisle for global issues. And I've seen this over and over again. One of the things that Trump did absolutely right was keep some of our enemies in check overseas, whether it was the putting a Hellfire missile into the front seat of a car of an Iranian general and letting Iran know where we stood. Trump, it was reported by Al Jazeera in one of their broadcasts on global powers, talking about how Trump put a stop in some ways to what was going on in a Syrian civil war, where their president was turning nerve gas against their people, and he again just used drone strikes, no armed personnel, just drone strikes, strategic missiles to target North Korean operatives, and the North Korean operatives were smuggling the gas that the president was using against their people to Syria. And so there were things like that going on that never really saw a lot of media attention. I pay very close attention to global news, and global news outlets report things much differently than American outlets do. And it always astonishes me when I hear back to back what's going on in the American news outlets versus the global news outlets, because, these people, like in Africa, they seriously care. I mean, they really, really care about what's going on in American politics. I'll give you another example here. And again, this is kind of one of those cultural moment kind of things. Here, let me get out of this really quick. We've got to get to our second slide here. Let's see what happened here. There we go. I made this post a couple of weeks ago, or not a couple of weeks ago, a couple of days ago. Didn't get a whole lot of attention. I wouldn't expect it to either. But it's, again, it's one of those things like we need to care more about. So here's another screen share. I said, American politics from a global perspective. I received this message from a Kenyan friend who was in a class that I lectured in at a university in Nairobi. She mentioned the leftist oppression that I have seen worldwide from American, UN, and EU foreign policy. With her permission, I wanted to share this with you. And this is my friend Ketchy. And Ketch said, we follow American politics like a hawk on prey because whoever is president in America determines how we live our lives in other nations. I know there are so many who have changed their position, especially blacks. Also, outside of America, people who have seen how the economy was bad everywhere during Biden's time. I have a friend from a non-African country who did not like Trump very much. As a matter of fact, she actually said people were mocking Harris in that sense. And she said, I was surprised when she told me she couldn't support Kamala and instead supported Trump. It's human nature and to our detriment to assume that when we hate someone, God must and should also hate them. Africa is safe with Trump, always. We will not be bullied to submit to oppressive foreign policies. And so whenever, and what she means by that is quite literally, America was enforcing upon Kenya LGBT legislation, abortion legislation. The European Union has been enforcing on Nigeria. They've been basically telling them, if you want foreign aid, you're going to have to allow us to put up Planned Parenthood facilities, specifically Planned Parenthood facilities, abortion clinics, and allow for gay marriage and things like that. And it's just truly amazing to me to see what's been going on with all of this. And nobody wants to talk about it. American politics has been reduced to personality and over platform. And it's pretty amazing to me to to see how people are responding to this. Which, by the way, you can respond right now. You can. I have my comment box open over here on my side screen, and if anybody has a comment, a question, or a thought that they'd like to share on the broadcast or not share, I can put that up there for you. So, yeah, this whole discussion is a fascinating one for me, and it's really been perplexing to hear all of these global perspectives. It's abundantly clear to so many people across the world that that American politics has much more to do with the rest of the world than Americans ever think about. And I think we need to reclaim that. I think we need to understand that our elections have consequences, have a ripple effect throughout the rest of the continent, or throughout the rest of the globe. It's an intercontinental election. Like, we can't get away from it. Or as one of my, as director of Ratio Christi International, I have the privilege of interviewing people and having conversations with people all over the globe every week. I've, got several, talking to somebody from South Africa today, United Arab Emirates later today. I'm constantly in these conversations. And, as a friend of mine from, Albania put it last week, that this election has global consequences. So we have to think of this as a cultural moment. That, we saw this gigantic red wave happen. So now what do we want from it? And I don't know about you guys, but the Republican Party has kind of been redefined in the last since 2016 in a lot of ways. The morality of the Republican Party, the Christian ideals that undergird it and things like that have changed. And we need to make a strong stand on that, because that's what the rest of the world is looking to, is help us with this, as people around the world call it a global wokeism that is infecting a lot of universities and cultures. And so we need to own that and make that even part of our missiology. If there are missionaries out there listening to me, it's like, look, if you're not teaching worldview in missions right now, I don't know how you could do biblical teaching right now without addressing some of these worldview issues that are going on in our culture, in the global culture. And further, as my friend from Albania said, we no longer live in a global community, we live in a global village. It's very, very small. And so, we have got to, we've got to be sure that we're doing what we need to do, in our biblical teaching and our cultural evaluations and things of that nature. And so as we navigate through this cultural moment, here's another example. I don't have anything to read or anything, but it was amazing. I've been going to the same barbershop ever since I got here. And those of you that know me best know I really love doing dialogue with Muslims and things. And that's just part of my day-to-day here in Houston. I mean, they're, have a huge Muslim population here. And this is a Muslim barbershop, but I didn't pick it because of that. It's like this barbershop picked me. So when you live in a city as big as Houston, you don't want to go to a bad barbershop. So I'm like on my phone doing what I do. Where's my phone? It's like over here. I'm like, okay, I'm on my phone looking up barbershops around me, and this barbershop had 4.7 stars, and it had a really kind of a different kind of name. I won't share the name, but the name was like, that's a strange name for a barbershop for men. And it was within a half mile of my house. So it was like 5 minutes from me. So I was like, okay, I need to get my hair cut. This is the first barbershop I went to in Houston. I walk in, and it's an Arabic barbershop. I mean, they even had Arabic letters on the sign, and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. What a God thing. And so I went through a couple of different barbers, and I finally settled on one. I won't share his name live or anything. And I've been developing a relationship with this guy. He's from Egypt. He's just super nice guy. Does a great job. I tell him just make me look pretty, and he does his best. And he, and we've got the kind of relationship where he's he's invited me to iftar dinners, and I've went and had dinner with him during like their most sacred month of the year during Ramadan. And he'll feed me desserts that his wife made and take me back in the break room at the barber shop, and we'll talk for a minute. And as I've been learning Arabic and he's been learning English, we enjoy talking to each other, and we have a lot in common despite our religious differences. Some of that's social issues and things like that. And so, as I'm talking to this guy, I walk into the Arabic barbershop the other day, and I had an appointment. When was this? Friday. And I walk in Friday, and lo and behold, no, Saturday. Lo and behold, I walk in there Saturday afternoon, and Prager University's playing on their TV. Now, you have to understand, as someone who thinks about culture a lot, the significance of that. First of all, Prager is a pro-Israel Jew. I mean, he's been outspoken about that. And while we see it sometimes as Israel versus Gaza and Lebanon, or Israel versus the terrorists, there's many people in the world, especially in the Middle East, that sees this war over there as, pro-Israel versus the Muslims, and a lot of people see Hamas as heroes because of that. And they see it at a totally different perspective. And understanding that perspective has really helped me in conversations and things throughout the last year as I've tried to navigate this very carefully. And so I'm astounded. I'm like, what is Prager University doing on this TV? They have this huge TV in the back of this place, and the Prager U video is going. And then it switched back to music after so it was just on their YouTube thing. I'm like, what is happening here? So this was 5 days after the American election. And it kind of clicked with me. I'd heard a soundbite from a Trump speech where he had talked about the Latino and Arab and ethnic vote, basically, African American. The ethnic vote helped him win some of the swing states. And that's true, because Michigan is probably true, but anyway, I don't know. I've not fact-checked that. But Michigan has a huge Arabic population. Now, it's been my experience that Arab people, in the last half decade that I've been talking to them on a every other day basis at least, Arab people are traditionally very, very liberal people. They see the Democratic. Have always seen the Democratic Party as the party for them. Like basically, I think because of pro-immigration policies and things like that, they just think that the Democratic Party has their best interests in mind. Although I've seen people more and more from the Middle East becoming more conservative due to the social issues that some of the Democratic Party has picked up. I mean, homosexuality just does not mesh at all with Islam. I mean, that's all there is to it. I mean, so it's so I've seen that kind of shift myself, but I sat down with my barber and I was like almost reluctant to bring up this conversation because I don't want to, politics are so unnecessarily divisive. People don't even know how to talk about it. I think a lot of that's fueled by media, but I can go into that in a minute. But I sit down in this chair and I talk to this guy, and so we begin talking about what's going on in the nation. And I was like, the election happened. And I talked to him about it, and I was like, were you able to vote? And he said, yeah, I can vote. I voted. I'm like, oh, okay. And then he asked me, he said, who did you vote for? And I said, inappropriate, you have to think like Eastern thinking people think of families. Everything's in a family structure. And I said, my family voted for Trump. And I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not boisterous about it either, but somebody asked me, I'll tell them that, and I think there's good reasons for that. So he and lo and behold, he's like, me too, brother, me too. I mean, he was excited about it. And I'm like, wow. I was like, why is that? Now, I mean, you're welcome to put in the chat here. I'll give you just a couple of seconds. Why do you think an Egyptian Muslim would vote for Donald Trump? Like, what's one of the things that he would vote for? This is part of this cultural moment thing that's happening here. And the reasons actually shocked me. I won't give you the first reason, the primary reason, but the secondary reason was he said, look around, brother. This is a business. The economy is collapsing right now. And you hear this all the time from people that this is one of the strongest economies. And I don't know where that comes from, but the day-to-day person is really struggling. Like, here's a barbershop in the service industry. And they're pretty busy. I mean, most of the time, they're like, I have to call ahead always. You just can't get a walk-in with this guy. You always have to call in, make an appointment, and he's one of those people, like, he can do two people at once. Like, he's always cutting hair, like, two people at one time. Like, he's washing the face of somebody, or he's cutting the hair of other, than while somebody's conditioner sitting there. You know, he's constantly multitasking. So busy. But he said the economy has hurt their business a lot. So economy was a big thing for him. And then the second thing was, now here is an American immigrant. You know what the second thing he said? He said security. We need a border wall. We need a southern border wall. I was like, what? He said the immigration policies of the Conservative Party in the United States is much safer than the latter, basically. I'm like, dumbfounded by this. And it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. And so yeah, it's pretty shocking to see people say things like that whenever you're talking about these things, because it's like, what happened here? Like, I thought the cultural narrative was like the left was the pro immigrant party and all that. But I guess if you live in the world where you are actually an immigrant, you see things differently. You see things as like, this is an issue that affects really where you live. So you're going to think about it way more critically and look past the talking points. And this is what I see pretty much globally. Like I said, I was in 8 different countries this summer. You've probably heard me say this. I was in Nigeria, Rwanda, Kenya, South Africa, Romania, Cambodia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. Now, that's a pretty wide group of countries. I've also, in the last year, went and visited a Baptist seminary in Cuba, and been to Brazil as well. In every single one of those countries, I don't think I have it laying around here, but especially in that Cuban seminary, they have created their own LGBT and theology textbook to try to help counter some of the LGBT issues that are even coming into the church in Cuba. And you ask them, like, how has that happened? And they're like, well, American influence. American influence. I'm like, wow. Brazil, Sao Paulo, where I was a few weeks ago, it was very pro homosexual culture there, and people are trying to figure out how to navigate that in the church. And all these other 8 countries I visited this summer, and all these countries that I'm talking to on almost all of them, all these people from all over the world are all dealing with the same issue, and it is leftist agenda cultural issues. Enforcing LGBT legislation on people was one of the primary initiatives of the left side of the aisle during the Biden administration. And Obama tried to make it part of his issues too. Actually, when Obama was in Kenya in 2015, the Kenyan people were really proud of their president for telling him to hit the road if he didn't try to stop enforcing gay marriage upon them, as he got the Obergefell decision through under his presidency. He was trying to bring that to some of our foreign allies, and they were not having it. But now all that's beginning to shift, all that's beginning to change. And if you think for one moment that who is in office in the United States doesn't matter, and it could be Trump, it could be Marco Rubio, it could be, fill in the blank, doesn't really matter. as far as who is in there. It's the Conservative Party platform that is the best for global freedom. Because when you take a country that is completely, broken as it is, you cannot, and you're relying upon foreign aid, you can't just throw that out. You can't just say like, well, get out of here. You have to seriously consider it. And some of these countries like Nigeria, whose the government's very corrupt, they just this summer just said, oh yeah, bring in, that's fine. Just give us our $150 million. We'll be okay with gay marriage and homosexual rights and freedoms and abortion and all this other stuff. And it's like, how much do you want this to spread? And of course, there might be people watching this video that says, hey, I want that to spread. You're just fueling my fire, son. So, and that's okay. I mean, whatever, to each his own. I feel sorry for you. I really do. You've obviously been blinded by the reality of all this. You've been blinded to the massive amounts of suicide rates within that community. You've been blinded by the transgender surgeries that go wrong and are killing people in a lot of respects. Even to the point where Great Britain shut down the biggest clinic for transgender surgeries in their country. They shut it down, legally shut it down, because it was killing people, basically. I mean, at some point, the cultural idiocy has to stop, and we have to absolutely make a stand and say, this we don't want another cultural moment like we've had since the Obergefell decision that has spread this stuff all over the world. We need to make a stand where we are, and do what we need to do and say what we need to say, and not be ashamed of the truth. And of course, let's see. We do have some questions, so I do want to get to them. Both of these are coming from Twitch, so thank you to whoever the narrator 345D is. But let's see if I can add this to the broadcast. I don't know. It's probably need to make this just a little bit bigger. But he said, greetings, my esteemed companions, fellow chosen ones. I trust this probably meant message finds you in the best health and high spirits as we traverse the intricate pathways, respect journeys. What remarkable pursuits or enlightening experiences have you recently encountered? Yeah. Well, okay. Probably should have fielded that, put it up here. I appreciate it, narrator, but I think I just got finished talking about that. But here's another one. My dear friend, who you vote for ultimately matters little. The forces in power are far more dangerous than the simple concerns of the economy. Well, I would totally disagree with that. I think it absolutely matters, and I think there's a lot of conspiracy theorists out there that say it doesn't matter. But I think what I've seen in the world and in the amount of countries I've been in now that have had to deal with all kinds of insanity that we have, that we're encountering, a lot of that filters into, and can be traced back to, rather, global foreign policies from Western nations. I think who's in power makes a huge difference when a country has a lot of global influence. And so I would totally disagree with that. Anybody else want to throw something in the question, comment, thought? I'll try to filter these just a little bit better. But yeah, I do love that about this channel, though. We always encourage people to get on the comments, say something. We'll try to bring it in. We don't really do super chats or anything yet. But yeah, I just like having the conversation with everyday people. So it's what I live to do. Well, guys, thank you for coming in today, for listening to me rant and go on in this impromptu live video. I do appreciate our supporters and all those who reach out to us. If you'd like to help our ministry, you're welcome to do that. You can go make a donation you can just Google Ratio Christie Special Projects and International Special Projects. Make a donation and help our ministry flourish even more as we try to stop the insanity worldwide. And what's going on is just astounding to me. and I'll be honest, like, not afraid to say this at all, but what's been going on in our country in the last week has, I was a little skeptical about the Christian foundations of our country and where it was going, and I don't know if it's exactly like Christianity itself that's bringing it, but it's definitely Christian moral values that people are, or more accurately, Christian moral facts and duties that people are voting for right now and thinking about right now. And there's a lot of people out there that we could give credit to for that, getting people's minds back on God, and getting people thinking about God again, and thinking about morality in a metaphysical way, and morality in a way that it applies to everyone. But I think mostly it's just people are starting to see the absurdity of forsaking our foundations and forsaking morality when it comes to everyday life. And this is exactly what happens. And so this gigantic shift to the right, while it did surprise me, it's still shocking me, to be honest. The more I talk to people worldwide, the less I should be surprised, I guess I could say. So here in just a minute, we're going to close her down. If anybody has any other comments or reactions or anything, speak now or forever hold your peace. But you guys can be looking forward to our next talk. We'll be talking about totally different subject on Thursday, so you can be watching for that. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already, on YouTube, or follow us on Facebook and Twitch now. And we want to just continue to keep the conversation going. So, guys, thank you for joining in, and thank you for your support, for your love for us. And let's just keep the truth conversation alive, guys. Keep it alive. So God bless you guys. I will see you on Thursday, if not before then.